We've got a buzzing kicking situation in the NFL, Breach, a potential massive rule change. Break it down for us.
Brett, I almost text you on Sunday so we can do an emergency podcast on this. That is how crazy this rule change is. The NFL trying to cut down on collision, trying to cut down on concussion. So I'm going to give the simplified explanation of this new rule proposal, which will likely be voted on at the owners' meetings at the end of March. Number one, you have your kickoff team and your return team lined up about 5 yards away from each other. The kicking team will be lined up on the receiving team's 40-yard line. The receiving team will be lined up on the receiving team's 35-yard line. The only people who won't be on the 35 or the 40 are the kicker and the returner. The returner will be back near the goal line, wherever returners go. Kicker will be back at his own 30-yard line where he will be kicking the ball. Those are the only two people who can move before the kick. Once the kick happens, the kicking team's tacklers, the coverage team, cannot go for the returner until he catches the ball or until the ball bounces inside the 20-yard line. So this is a lot of rules, right? Okay. So now, then you're also introducing 3 kind of touchback options. If the ball does not make it to the receiving team's 20-yard line, it is considered out of bounds. The receiving team gets it at the 40-yard line. If the ball is kicked into the end zone on the fly or out of the end zone, you get a touchback, but you get it at the 35-yard line. And then finally, if the ball lands inside the receiving team's 20-yard line, rolls into the end zone, you get a touchback, but at the 20-yard line. So the difference in touchbacks is because the NFL is trying to discourage kickers from kicking out of the end zone because they want to see more returns. And then finally, the onside kick will effectively be going away unless you are trailing in the fourth quarter. And the only way you can do it is you have to let the officials know you're going to attempt an onside kick, and then the other team will know that you are attempting an onside kick. So there are no more surprise onside kicks. My quick takeaway all this is that I am not a huge fan of this rule. When the XFL implemented it, they implemented it with a 4th and 15 play instead of an onside kick. So basically, the NFL is taking the XFL rule, kind of stealing part of it, and then they're adding their own little nuances to the rule, which make it worse. There's a reason the XFL did not have onside kicks because it doesn't make sense with this rule. Surprise onside kicks, much more successful than regular onside kicks. So it just seems like kind of they took a pretty good rule the XFL had and made it worse is my giant takeaway from this.
So in other words, like every time there's a kickoff, it's like 3 things could happen in terms of the ball placement. Josh, do you have, could you right now, if I told you a ball landed somewhere, would you know where to place the ball based on what Breach just explained? Because me either.
Yeah. No, but I will say he did the best job of explaining that anybody could have possibly done. And he acted like it's been a rule for years. I mean, I could have never done that. So I was pretty amused just listening to it.
Did you hear my setup? I was like, hey, Breach, there's a kicking thing. Tell us about it. Like, I'm not even trying to act like I know what's going on here. I think what is the goal here? They want more kickoffs, but less onside kicks?
More returns, but with less collisions, fewer collisions, so that since the return team and the coverage team are only 5 yards apart, they're not going to be running at each other at full speed because you don't have time to get up to full speed. So that is the end game, is to cut down on the collisions, but it's just a very weird... This is
a wildly and unnecessarily complicated.
Right. I mean, people had trouble understanding overtime in the Super Bowl because it had never been done before. Now you're talking about a rule that has 3 different touchbacks. And the other thing is this rule was in effect with XFL kickers. NFL kickers are much better than XFL kickers. So this becomes a situation where I think we'll see special teams coaches ask their kickers to kick kind of a lower line drive that lands in the middle of the field around the 18-yard line. Because if you get that, the returner has no idea where the ball's now in fair play. The returner has no idea where it's going to bounce. And as long as it doesn't go out of bounds, the coverage team will be in good shape.
So wait, if the ball is kicked through the end zone,
then a touchback at the 35-yard line for the receiving team.
Okay. And if the ball is kicked into the land, like if the guy catches it in the end zone, 35-yard line.
Yes.
If the ball is kicked short of the end zone, but rolls into the end zone, the ball's at the 20. So in other words, like if the ball, if the kickers land it short, they're going to have to return it because otherwise you're at the 20.
Right. And like, if they're going to have all these crazy rules, I would say they should add if the kicker kicks it through the uprights, then the touchback is moved back to the 15. And the reason that would make this rule even cooler is because if the kicker goes for that and misses, well, the touchback's gonna be at the 35. So there would be some because
I like that. Yeah, I do kind of like the idea of like gamifying the kickoff a little bit, but this is so there's just really two. What was the thing you said about being treated like it's out of bounds?
So if the kickoff does not make it to the receiving team's 20-yard line, so
gotcha. Yeah,
it lands at like the 23, then
if the guy kicks it, lands at the 23 or lands at the 20 and spins backwards, then they get the don't touch it, you get it at the 40.
Right. And so that's why the onside kick is effectively eliminated unless you alert the ref in the fourth quarter when your team's trailing, is because you have to kick it past.
I see what you're saying. So that's like if you try an surprise onside kick and they don't touch it, they get it. All right, interesting. Okay,
right.
Is this gonna pass? Did it pass?
I mean, you have multiple special teams coordinators who worked on this. John Fossil, who's one of the most respected in Dallas. Yeah, Bones. So you had, I think, 8 special teams coordinators who kind of ironed this rule out. So I would think their owners would at least vote for this because it would be kind of a slap in the face if they didn't. So now you only need 24 votes. So you're 1/3 of the way to.
I guess, man, but like, I mean, look, we're reasonably intelligent. Right. Young people. We're like Josh and I are like no, like you're like I don't know if I want to like deal with it. You have to do 500 radio hits just to explain this to the country.
And you're adding like a separate rule book for kickoffs. I mean, it's insane.
Josh and I are like like these owners are gonna be like, oh, cool, this is confusing. Let's do it. You know, like I could see this being tabled or like some form of it being utilized. And then like tabled for 2025, and then they're like, "Nah, this is ridiculous."
Or at best, if they do approve it, I think it would just be a 1-year trial,
or even like they did with
preseason
trial. Or remember they did. I don't know why.
The extra point was a preseason trial first.
Yeah, but they also
back to 33.
Remember 1 year they like changed like pass interference.
Yeah,
they're like
you could review it.
Yeah. They're like, all right. Let's
after the Saints Rams NFC title game.
Yeah, that's right.
And then they got rid of it because they're like, yeah, this is not a good rule.